Hi there. Talking about the tyranny of Hitler and Holocaust, then we can't avoid this name, Anne Frank. In the previous video, I have shared about the famous story of reincarnation from the East. In the Western world too, there is a famous, remarkable life story from the World War II. Anne Frank, born as Barbro Karlén. Anne Frank was born on 12th of June 1929 in Frankfurt, Germany, and faced a tragic death in the hands of the Nazis inside the concentration camp in February or March of 1945. The exact date of death is unknown, and when Anne Frank died, she was just 15 years old. After 9 years, on 24th of May 1954, it is believed that she has taken her rebirth as Barbro Karlén in Sweden. To understand Barbro Karlén, who claims that she is Anne Frank's reincarnation, we will have to look into the story of Anne Frank. If you have read the diary of Anne Frank published 2 years after her death in 1947 titled The Diary of a Young Girl, The Secret Annex, and also her life story, I'm sure you too very deeply moved and might have lost your sleep for few days or weeks. Anna, as mentioned earlier, was born in Frankfurt, Germany. In 1934, at the age of 4.5, her family had to move to Amsterdam because Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party gained control over Germany.
Often go wrong, let them hear your voice. You'll find that rhythm and song make the world rejoice. Make life go with a swing, laugh at trouble and sing. Tra la 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 la. Count your blessings and smile.
But then again, German captured Netherlands too. Frank's family went into hiding in a concealed room in July 1942, and for 2 years they were hiding until the family's arrest by the Gestapo on 4th of August 1944. These 2 years is when Anna kept a diary that she had received as a 13th birthday present from her father and wrote in details of her life hiding. The whole family were transported to the concentration camp. The harrowing journey to concentration camp takes at least 3 days. Many died in the journey itself. First, the Nazis forcibly split the men from the women and children. Anna's father was forcibly got separated from the family. Those who deemed fit selected to work in the camp, and those who were deemed not fit immediately killed. Children younger than 15 sent directly into the poisonous gas chamber. Anne Frank, who has turned 15 just 3 months earlier, escaped the immediate death. In the concentration camp, Anne and other prisoners was forced to strip naked, had her head shaved, and was tattooed with an identification number on her arm. Anne and the rest of the women were used as slave labor, forced to haul rocks, and at night crammed into overcrowded prison. Anne became very withdrawn and tearful when she saw children being led to the gas chambers. Disease was rampant. Anne's skin became badly infected by scabies. Anne and Margaret, Anne's sister, were moved into an infirmary which was in a state of constant darkness and infested with rats and mice. In there, Anne's mother, Edith Frank, stopped eating, saving every morsel of food for her daughters and passing her rations to them through a hole she made at the bottom of the infirmary wall. This is where Anne's mother died of starvation. In early 1945, a typhus epidemic and typhoid fever were rampant, and that killed Margaret and Anne. After the war ended, Anne's father, the only survivor of his family, discovered his daughter's diary and published it in 1947. He decided to fulfill Anne's greatest wish to become a writer. Anne became the symbol of the Holocaust and a representative of persecution of the countless others.
I am the Reverend T.J. Stretch, attached as Padre to the formation controlling this camp. My home is at Fishguard. My parish was at Holy Trinity Church, Aberystwyth. I've been here 8 days, and never in my life have I seen such damnable ghastliness. This morning we buried over 5,000 bodies. We don't know who they are. Behind me you can see a pit which will contain another 5,000.
Now, let's look into Barbro Karlén's story. It all began when Karlén was 2 years old, told her mother and father that her name is Anne Frank and not Barbara, insisted that her father Otto Frank will be there to take her back home. Similar as Shanti Devi's story of reincarnation, she felt as though standing in between two worlds only separated by a thin membrane. One is real, which is as Anne Frank, and another is very shadowy. She could not understand why she was living in two worlds. Her mother dismissed it as a mere fantasy. Her parents thought their daughter is crazy and decided to take her to the psychiatrist. Barbara began to realize that nobody would ever believe her, and she didn't tell her stories. So the psychiatrist informed her parents that she was a normal little girl and nothing to worry about her. Psychiatrist just concluded that as other children do, she must have been talking to an imaginary friend and informed her parents she would soon grow out of it. But she never did. She became introverted and decided to keep quiet about it. But the memories did not go away. Karlén learned about Anne Frank in class one day and was very confused about how the teacher knew everything about Anne Frank, because she had no idea before this that Anne Frank was someone very famous that other people knew. Barbara realized that it was no longer smart to go around saying that she had been Anne Frank. At the age of 10, Barbara went on a trip around Europe with her parents. Soon, they came to Amsterdam, and her parents decided to take in all the sights, to go everywhere. Then, of course, one of these was the house of Anne Frank. Because after calling for a cab, Barbara suddenly turned to them and said, "We don't need a cab." Her parents were startled, and as they never been there before, Barbara guided the way, walked to the house, but as they entered the house, Barbara began to get a really horrible feeling. Whatever she was seeing there also was in her dream, and she felt a tightness in her chest and extreme fear. She noticed that Anne Frank's pictures were still on the wall, and she excitedly told her parents, "Look at the pictures, they are still there." There were no pictures. Barbara insisted the pictures were there. So her mother just walked over to one of the men who worked there and asked if they had any pictures on the wall. And the man replied, they just temporarily removed them to fix the protective glass, Barbara also had a flashback. She suddenly saw a man in a green uniform standing over her. She cried and ran, fall over the step, and she turned around. He disappeared. That was when her mother realized that it was real. Everything Barbara had said was true. Most compelling proof that Barbara is Anne Frank reincarnated is meeting with Anne Frank's last living relative, her cousin, Budi Ilyas. Even though Budi didn't believe in reincarnation, he was intrigued to meet this woman going around telling everybody that she was Anne Frank. The meeting took place and they looked at each other, then they fell into each other's arms and began to cry. He totally convinced and says totally believed that Barbara is the reincarnation of Anne Frank. Karlén's passion too is to become a writer. Her first publication was when she was 11 years old, titled Man on Earth. She and Anne share many similar qualities such as their love of nature, literary skills, and same writing themes. And today, Karlén continues to write, works as an equestrian, and lives a peaceful life in United States. In her book, she admits that the memories have faded over time. So, the more we research these reincarnation cases, the more we believe they are true. What are your thoughts, and do you believe in reincarnation? Please comment below this video. Thank you.
Go with a swing, laugh at trouble and sing, tra la 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 la. Count your blessings and smile while you're playing your part. Keep